It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He's Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we kick off a Thursday show, Gary, what's happening?
I'm just reading the headlines, and it's like, stop it!
Yeah.
I was going through different articles. This from Vox. All right, here we go.
Right.
I don't even have to read the body of the story. In fact, the headline makes me never want to read the body of the story.
Yeah.
Sydney Sweeney and the unsettling legacy of the blonde bombshell.
What? Unsettling legacy?
Yes.
What the hell did I miss?
I've no idea. Yet there's a surprising staying power to the story that suggests more to it than meets the eye. Maybe it's because he adds surreal interplay with Sweeney's blonde bombshell image, revealing how much weight that symbol still carries today and the ideas that it puts forward about sexuality, race, and gender.
Yeah, well, they got everything, didn't they? They got it all in. Congratulations, Fox. You got it all in. You did it. You did your job as activists. Way to go.
Eric, the mental stress I've gone through in my life. If you look at pictures of me when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I've got blonde hair and blue eyes. Mm-hmm. The blonde hair has sort of disappeared and it's become sort of brown. Okay, it's become sort of, and it's become sort of silver.
Oh, these days it's
silver.
It's a little more gray.
Yeah, no, it's silver.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, silver is that distinctive look.
Oh, you don't want to say gray, huh? Because gray just sounds like you're doomed.
Well,
By the way, it's gray.
I had the blonde hair and blue eyes, which showed, of course, my genetic superiority to anybody else out there, we all know.
Did it really? You going to go with that?
That's what I'm told by the eugenics crowd.
Yeah.
Now I'm just trying to figure out, where did my blonde hair and blue eye youth, because apparently it was youth genetics for my hair.
Yeah.
How did that serve me in my life? Where did I have this genetic advantage?
Yeah. No.
Certainly wasn't in physical activities.
Well, you did say you didn't have a growth spurt until you were 45, something like that?
I didn't get to my full height and weight till I was 25, 26. Yeah. We grow late in the no, I don't know. Is that genetic superiority?
Well, I had a growth spurt early, and then more was. I found out pretty quickly that more was expected of me. Well, no, you can handle it physically. Get out there. Come on, go get a job. I'm 11.
Well, come on. Is there anybody else, any other guy out there or gal out there that was cut from every single athletic team that they ever tried out for, including Little League? I was cut from every. Remember, this isn't the Little League that we have today, where it's like, oh, okay, you want to join? Fine, you're on the team. I got cut from Little League.
Yeah.
Football, baseball. And not once or twice, multiple times.
Yeah.
So apparently my genetic superiority was not there.
No.
And so, I go to sleep obsessed every single night about how my blue eye and blonde-haired youth did not at all evolve into any type of genetic superiority, which, of course, it should have, correct? Could you imagine somebody just who has never listened to the show, just catch that beginning of the sentence going, Who the hell is this guy?
Well,
What kind of a radio show is this?
I had this conversation with a very good friend of mine who passed away a few years ago, but he was from Great Britain, a British guy who came here, became a citizen, and loved it here, but could not wrap his brain around the obsession with race by the American media. And I just told him, I said, they want you to believe that every white male is a racist just simply because they're a white male.
Even if they don't have blonde hair and blue eyes.
Yeah, and I said you have to look at this as, break it down. That means I think I'm genetically superior to other people. Think about how laughable that is.
I know.
Seriously. It's just, it doesn't matter who's trying to say it. It's beyond laughable. But, of course, they don't have anything if they don't have their cause. And racism is at the basis of it because they are obsessed with it, because it's how they think. They judge everything by race, by gender. Vox got it all in right there in the one sentence. They got everything in. They're becoming efficient at being bigots. If you're so obsessed with it, what does it say about you?
There's a surprising stain. Let me read that 2 sentences again. Yet there's a surprising staying power to the story in a way that suggests there's more to it than meets the blue eyes. Okay, I added blue eyes. The eye. Maybe it's because he adds surreal interplay with Sweeney's blonde bombshell image, revealing how much weight that symbol still carries today and the ideas it puts forward about sexuality, race, and gender. Well, in the minds of liberals, yeah.
Yeah. It's how they think.
Conservatives, we would have seen that ad and went, cleavage, and then moved on. Right. Unless cleavage is the new signal of white supremacy.
It might be. In that case, I'm going to have to start buttoning up my shirt.
And then I would have looked at that ad, said cleavage, and then I would have just felt like George Costanza in that episode where the guy who was the head of NBC, it was his daughter, and George looked at it, and he turned to him and said, "She's only 15."
Yeah, that's the whole thing with Sydney Sweeney. I was telling you in the pre-show meeting. I mean, seriously, she looks 12.
I will say this to me when I saw if that ad was there and I just went, I would have never noticed it. I wouldn't have noticed anything. I don't care.
No, it looks like honestly, I would have thought children's clothing a little bit inappropriate for children's clothing. I don't know how old she actually is. She's in her 20s, probably. I don't know. But she looks 12. And I would have looked at it and said, that kid needs to get dressed,
That would have been my first thought.
Yeah.
She's 27.
Okay. I think we looked that up one time.
Yeah, that would be the thing. I mean, probably that's from the we're old and we have those father-like thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's fine when we've talked about this and it's really weird as you get older and then you look at something. I'll see a woman, I'll go, oh my God, must be 14, 15. And it's like, how old are you? 36.
Yeah. I remember one time. Yeah. I remember one time one of my daughters was going outside. It was dark. It was night. One of her books, her math books, was in her car. And she was wearing pajamas. And they were long pajamas, winter-like pajamas. And I said, put a jacket on. She goes, well, I'm just walking up, put a jacket on. You never know where the creeps are,
Yeah.
And so if I had just come up on that ad, if it had just hit me, not, associated with any news stories surrounding it with Sydney Sweeney, I would have thought, a kid needs to get dressed. That's a little inappropriate for a child. She doesn't look 27.
You ready for this? This is more in the because what they're talking about is it's not society or it's liberals that look at it this way. Because here it is: lots of celebrities have been dinged for their political opinions since Trump was first elected in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about Sweeney and the way we talk about her that seems to attract political scrutiny. That something might very well be the potent symbols embedded in her great, quote, great genes, her blonde hair, her blue eyes, her curves, the way she presents all the above to the to the camera. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's you may look at it that way. I would have gone right by the ad if the left hadn't gone crazy and attempted to make some type of eugenics argument out of this entire thing of a stupid ad to promote genes, because that's all it is.
Right.
It's an ad to promote genes.
Right.
And they'll find who they feel is an attractive woman and do that like beer ads.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like all those men were convinced that, if we before Bud Light went off the rails, 15 years ago, it would have been, wow, if I drink Bud Light, okay, I can keep that weight down. And look at those babes in bikinis. I'm drinking that Bud Light beer, and they're all over that guy. Well, if I drink Bud Light, the same thing's going to happen to me because I'm just a human being with no critical thinking skills whatsoever, and I'm just an idiot who believes that actually will happen.
Yep. A beer in your hand and a cigarette in your mouth. That's what chicks like. Wasn't it Miller Lite that had the Miller Lite girls? They were like the promotions girls. I seem to remember that back in the day. And they would go out and do these local promotions, and it would be, kind of like a Hooters type team that shows up, and they go to the bars and everything else, and you're working the retail environment basically. For me, it was never that complicated. It's alcohol. It's cheap. The alcohol gives me a buzz. I don't have to pay much for it. I'm going to drink some.
But then again, I always get ads wrong. I guess I don't look like ads like I guess like they expect the regular person to do it. And we already talked about the Cialis ad from a few years back when it was the guy and it was, they were talking about Cialis or whatever the Viagra product was. And the tires are in the backyard with the rope hanging and the guy's throwing the football at it. And he just couldn't hit it. He just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. He just could not get it through that tire. And apparently then he took the Cialis, and, man, he completed passes right through the middle of that tire every single time. And I went to my doctor and I said, look, Doc, I'm the quarterback for my flag football team. Can I have some of this stuff? It's going to improve my accuracy, and maybe we can start winning some flag football games.
Right. Or at least I can throw it through a tire.
Exactly, because
I can impress my friends.
I had that exactly.
I get the ads wrong all the time. Interpretation, right? It's comedian Nate Bargatze has this bit about the P90X tapes, and he goes, they showed the before guy, and I was like, well, wait a minute, that looks pretty good. He looks like he's in pretty good shape compared to me. Does he have a tape? I think I can do the before picture. I think I can accomplish that. It's the advertising world, and maybe it's because you and I've been working in advertising since I was 18. I understand how it works. And by the way, I don't think you have to be anybody who works in the advertising field to understand how it works. We understand, all right, sex sells. They're trying to sell it through sex, whatever it is. We always said, look, it's beer. Hey, it's beer. It's got alcohol in it. It's fairly cheap. And drink responsibly. Be pretty straightforward about it. But it's you look at where the left takes this, what really was, quite frankly, an unexciting, I think, campaign. I wouldn't have really thought much about it other than that girl's too young to,
But the ad isn't targeting us.
No. But I'm sophisticated enough and, again, have enough advertising experience to say that's a mundane campaign. I know one when I see one. And it's not just as a consumer. It's somebody who's been doing it since he was 18. So I actually, look at that and say, you could have done better. There could be a better campaign for your jeans, your clothing that you're trying to sell. Because, first of all, are you trying to sell to men or women? So is a sexy girl appealing to men? Because they're not going to go buy women's jeans. As far as I know, it's 2025. Maybe something has changed.
No, but if they're looking for the image of what whatever demographic they're trying to hit, does the research show that an 18-year-old woman looks at that ad and says, "That's who I want to be"?
Actually, younger, adolescent women, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who the gene. Honestly, I don't know what is the age demographic that.
I don't know what the target demographic was,
right.
But I do know that the response by adolescent women. Actually, I was just reading an article about this a few weeks ago before really this whole thing dropped, and their response to today's ads, what they respond to. But it's not just the ads they respond to; it's also the social media. There's also new information, new data about when adolescent women get a phone and what happens with their mindset with those that get a phone at the age of 10 or 11 versus getting a phone at 15, 16, or 17. So, the psychology is there, but again, it's not what I would call the strongest campaign. It's not, it didn't look like a real fun ad.
We got a great show. So much to talk about. 866-90 Red Eye.
Hey there, this is Hope Zavara with Mother Trucker Yoga, and here's your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by House. Lower back pain is one of the most common complaints amongst truck drivers, with over 50% experiencing it regularly. Let's fix that. Sit up tall in your seat, inhale and arc your lower back away from the seat, like there's a pin behind you you're trying to avoid. Now exhale, round your back, and tuck your tailbone under, just like the shape of the letter C. Repeat that movement 5, 10, even 15 times until your lower back and hips start to loosen up and feel ready for the road. There you go. Small, simple changes can lead to big results so that you, my friend, can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and houseproducts.com for more tips and support.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Really, our pre-show meeting was just looking at different headlines and going, what? Huh? It wasn't like we delved deep into the minutia of some economic philosophy. And coming up from the bottom of the hour, I want to get to the one that you saw, the one that you hit me with on Tulsi Gabbard, the one about the whole CIA thing.
I saw the headline. And the question in my mind just popped out even before I read the story, which is why I had to read the story.
Yep.
But it's again, the insanity.
We'll have that coming up. Plus, new study raises concern over universal basic income plans. Nothing is a surprise from these studies that are looking at universal basic income, and a whole bunch more coming up.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want. So our pre-show meeting, we were just going through headlines, and it wasn't like we said, let's go through the headlines. We were just doing it, and it was just like, look at this story. Look at this one. Look at this one.
Yeah.
Look at this one.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this one. And you hit the one on Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, the Washington Post.
Hilarious.
Gabbard overrode CIA officials' concerns and pushed to release classified Russia report. And I thought, well, unless those CIA officials' names are John Radcliffe, you don't have a story.
She didn't override anyone if she didn't override Radcliffe.
Well, in the story,
he's the ultimate
they write
decision maker.
3 paragraphs in. Gabbard, CIA Director John Radcliffe, and Attorney General Pam Bondi have released a slew of intelligence and law enforcement reports over the last month that they claim prove that spy agencies finding that Moscow intervened in the 2016 presidential contest to help Trump was a hoax concocted by the Obama administration. Man, that whole paragraph was one sentence. Wow. They run out of periods over there at the Washington Post? Are the cutbacks that bad? They can't afford a period? But I thought to myself, again, because, and you know how I already knew that it wasn't Radcliffe, is because Radcliffe's name wasn't in the headline. If the headline said, Gabbard overrode Radcliffe,
now you got a story.
Well, now you got a story. Now, he works under her, but that would still be a story. But when you say CIA officials, it's the equivalent of some didn't like it. Yeah, I get that. There's probably some in the intel community left over from the Obama years and the Biden years that don't like any of it. I have no doubt. But again, unless she overrode John Radcliffe, you don't have a story. I mean, it was just, I just thought to myself, what's his name from CNN that got fired said the other day, well, the problem is the media are biased. What do they call it? We need opinion diversity. What do they call that? We need... in other words, they need different points of view in the newsroom. We need one of everybody. No, you don't. You just need to do journalism. I don't care what you personally think. Do the work.
Well, the diversity in the newsroom was maybe skin color. I don't know, blonde bombshells. But the blonde bombshell. Sorry, that's just hilarious. But the diversity was never a diversity of opinion. That was the problem.
Well, yeah, it's what he called it, and they started using that, saying. And remember, there was talk about it with the Washington Post too, and it was like, it's not. That's not the issue. I don't care what your opinion is, unless you're hired as an opinion maker. If you're writing on the opinion page or you're hosting an opinion show, remember when John Malone, who was part of the group that was coming in to take over CNN, the Discovery Group, and they were coming in to take over CNN. And I think it was actually even before they closed on the deal, or it was right about the time they were going to close. And he said, well, what they need to do at CNN is they need to go back to just doing the news. And you and I looked at that and said, no, look, if they want to have an opinion, that's fine. Don't have an opinion and call it journalism. That's the problem that people have, is because they kind of do the Jon Stewart thing. Jon Stewart with the, back in the day was, I'm just a comedian. No. You just entered the ring in the arena of public opinion, and that puts you right in the center. So if you can swing but you can't take the punch, then get out. You can't have it both ways. Well, in journalism, they tried to have it. I'm just a journalist.
Well, there's two. I think there's two things right now, and I'm reading this here. Mark Halpern wrote this. The former Washington Post fact checker, bestower of Pinocchios, openly admits that the paper's business model is entirely based on appealing to its existing liberal readers. Therefore, he thinks the Post would be unwise to change its extreme liberal skewing. And when you look at it, you can say, all right, if you fit a certain genre or, where you're going after a particular demographic, if you change that demographic, you're going to have problems. Fox News, for example, if Fox News went all liberal tomorrow, they're going to be there's going to be major problems. But the problem with the left, I think there's two problems. One is intellectual dishonesty.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just mentioned there. When they say we're journalists.
Yeah.
And we care about being fair and hearing from both sides.
Right.
And obviously they do not.
Right. Now,
at least, according to Mark Halpern here with, what's his name I can't think of his name. What was his name now? Forgot his name. The former Washington Post fact checker.
Glenn Kessler.
Glenn Kessler.
Mm-hmm.
At least he's admitting we have, we're liberal. We're not. We're not. We are political activists. We're not journalists. We're not looking to be fair. And, that's the entire point. But I think that one of the things, part of the virtue signaling that comes from the liberal media is the fact that Bernard Goldberg wrote about this when he wrote Bias, the book Bias, is they actually believe that there's the left, there's the right, and what they believe, even though it's always left, they believe they're above the fray
mm-hmm.
of the political argument out there, and they're not right, they're not left, they're just right.
Yeah,
as
right.
a RIGHT.
Right.
They're right, not politically, but they're correct
right.
on all the issues out there. But it's that intellectual dishonesty that the public can see. And they say, you're not journalists, you're political activists.
Well,
right there, you lose credibility. You're not
Yep.
being honest with the product that you're selling.
Well, even in Terry Moran's, I don't know if it's a mea culpa, whatever you want to call it, but his admitting that they were biased. Here's what he wrote. Were we biased? Yes, almost inadvertently. What? What?
Yeah, you got to have an excuse.
Exactly. Oh, we didn't mean to do it.
Right, an excuse that justifies it.
Right.
Almost inadvertently, like it just happenstance.
Well, we thought we were being correct.
Yeah.
I'd say ABC News, finishing his quote, I'd say ABC News has the same problem so many leading cultural institutions do in America, a lack of viewpoint diversity. No, it's a lack of journalists. Because that's the problem. You forget what journalism is, or you just don't care in the first place. If you're an activist, you don't care. It's about getting out there and in this case, getting Trump or getting the GOP, getting Marco Rubio, getting whoever you oppose, and you believe you're going to be the hero. You believe your role. Remember, it was the editor at the time at BuzzFeed in 2017. This is after they had posted the dossier. And when they posted the dossier, they put up a kind of disclaimer. We can't verify everything here. And he said, well, even though we couldn't verify it, he later said, we were going to post it because that's the role we see our journalists in today. Well, they're not journalists because unless they care about the truth, they're not doing the work of journalism. The truth doesn't care politically at all. The truth doesn't care about damaging anyone politically, regardless of who it is and what side they're on. The truth is just the truth.
I think I'll put three things if you want to include, for example, the Colberts and things like that, and if you want to throw Howard Stern into the mix and what might possibly happen there, that's fine. But I think number one with the media, and that would be outside the entertainment media, it's the intellectual dishonesty. I don't think you can sell any product by being dishonest long term. And so when you claim you're one thing and it's obvious that you're not, and remember, it's the fact that the media, they really didn't attack and go after, for example, Mayorkas or Biden talking about the border is secure. It was self-evident. So what you've got is it's so easy to see. It's self-evident to the viewer who's not brainwashed and understanding that, look, whatever my side says, I hate the other side so much, I'm going to look past the flaws of the media that I actually pay attention to. But when you're intellectually dishonest, you can't sell anything long-term. Might be able to sell it short-term, but you can't sell it long-term to a wide audience. You may have a niche audience, but it's continued to go down and go down and go down. The second part is you're defending 80-20 issues. Number one, you're intellectually dishonest, and in order to defend 80-20 issues, you have to be intellectually dishonest. And that's the problem that they have. And then when you get to the Colberts, whatever, it's the fact that they work in entertainment channels. They don't work for news channels. If Colbert worked for MSNBC, he probably would find some kind of success, probably would not be making $20 million, but he would find some type of success there, minor or whatever, because there is a specific genre there.
He could do the other 4 days a week that Rachel Maddow doesn't do on her show. Yeah. Nobody would know the difference because of the haircut and the glasses.
Right. And so the fact that they don't understand, and we had talked earlier about advertising and the Sydney Sweeney ad and everything else, but the fact that they don't understand that when you market a product, the product has to be popular and you have to tell the truth about the product that you're offering. And they have neither. And that's the problem.
Well, and beyond that, it's not just those who oppose their point of view, their viewpoint. It's also those that are there because they share that viewpoint. They're looking at this going, you guys keep claiming this, but you never bring evidence. Remember in fact, Rachel Maddow and the tax thing, the tax form that she had on Trump, and they built it up for 45 minutes.
That's a great point.
I mean, it's like, all right, we got him. Just wait. Okay, one more break. We'll do it after this break. Okay, one more break, and then the last segment of the show, wah 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 wah.
Yeah, it went nowhere.
It went nowhere.
And so
if you can't deliver, because I kind of looked at the whole Russian hoax thing. You and I knew, because we were following the work and bringing that work to our audience of people who were doing the work, and there were documents attached, and there were things we didn't know. But as more and more stuff is released, then it's like, okay, this is the evidence we think is important. In order to find the truth, you're going to have evidence of the truth, and that's important. And we know that's important to anybody who's paying attention, whether they're an audience or they're just somebody in the room with you. And the left doesn't care about that. Why is it? They don't have the evidence to begin with, and they don't care to try and find the truth. The truth doesn't work in their favor.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
there, Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. You know, one of the things is, and we'll talk about it coming up on the top of the hour, because it was interesting in our pre-show meeting. We were just looking through headlines, and it was like, wow. And I was looking through more headlines and just saying to myself, it's as if even when you win the argument as a conservative, the same argument comes back up again weeks later and then months later, and it's the same argument over and over and over again. And even if you win it, the left won't give up on their losing argument.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
Yeah. And then they started, again, they just recycle things over to even after they've lost.
Yeah.
They don't give up.
We'll tell you more coming up.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. So, we started the show just talking about in our pre-show meeting, which was just, it wasn't planned. We were just throwing out headlines to each other, headlines in the news, and going, what? And just before the top of the hour, I was saying, some of the headlines I saw, I went, we're just repeating it over and over again. You win the 80-20 argument, it doesn't matter. They still bring it back up again. Mm-hmm. 2 headlines. Here we go, from yesterday.
All right.
ICE is no Gestapo. That's the first headline. Second headline, Trump is right to point the finger at Hamas for Gaza woes. All we're doing is repeating the same damn thing over and over again because we've got a society of complete leftist idiots.
Yeah.
ICE is no Gestapo. No blanks, Sherlock. They're kidnapping people off street. I mean, we dealt with this years ago, and it just is repeated over and over again. Even when they lose the argument, there's never a new argument.
No.
There's never a new debate point. Frankly, it's getting boring to the people on the left. Well, stimulate me intellectually, please.
When we say they're like children, this is exactly how children behave. Now, to the defense of children, they don't know a lot of things. They haven't been around long enough to learn them. Heard a comedian the other day say, they say kids say the darndest things. Well, you would too if you knew basically nothing. Young kids know very little. And so what do? They keep repeating the same thing. They don't know it's also the definition of insanity to repeat the same thing that hasn't been working over and over again, thinking it's going to work. But the left, and I'm guessing, they're not smart enough to figure it out either. Because they keep throwing the same things out there over and over and over. And they're losing big time on this. And they don't see that. Yeah, you see a few on the left say it. The Terry Moran thing, him saying, oh, yeah, we were by almost inadvertently. But at least he's saying it.
Well, when I saw the headline, ICE is no Gestapo, and it's defending ICE, which is, of course.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that argument from the left still continues, where the right is saying, stop it, ICE is no Gestapo. And that's a slam dunk argument because it's so simple. ICE is only doing one thing, and they are enforcing the law of the people.
Yeah.
The elected representatives of the people came up with all of the laws that ICE is enforcing. We, the people, are the ones that gave ICE the authority to enforce the law. We, the people, through our elected representatives in Congress. If you don't understand that, after we've had this argument 100 times, then maybe you should just leave the country. And I'm not one that says that normally. But it just is like, for God's sakes, come up with a new damn argument.
They're
that
not
doesn't
smart enough to.
That doesn't fail every time. And then the next one, Trump is right to point the finger at Hamas for Gaza woes. I read the headline. I'm like, it's Hamas. This isn't new. You know, it's like they're repeating the same thing again. Okay, let's try to go after Israel again and just pretend that October 7th didn't happen. Let's just keep repeating it over and over again. And you and I have said this numerous times. We said a few times, we said, look, we apologize for making, again, the same correct argument over and over again. But when they continue like an assembly line to keep losing on these issues 80-20 and then still continuing to make the same argument over and over again, you only have one choice, and that's to keep repeating the same correct argument against you over and over and over again.
But remember, on the Hamas front, the media was taken into a small theater and shown the footage recorded by Hamas on October 7th, and they were in tears. But did that really change how the collective in the media was acting? No, it didn't. The proof is out there. It is obvious to anybody with a brain what's going on here on many fronts. And yet, they can't help themselves. They got to be activists. It's the cause of the day, the cause of the week, the cause of the year, whatever it is.
And they don't even attempt anymore to have an argument. And you and I have an advantage because we've been paying attention to politics for the last 40 to 50 years. We know what the arguments were in the past, and we know what the arguments are now. And it seems that the left continues to put people out there that don't have the intellectual ability to make any new argument. In fact, their arguments are worse than they were a month ago, 2 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, 30 years ago. And they throw people like Jasmine Crockett. By the way, Ron was telling me that, he also works with Mark Levin.
Yeah.
Mark didn't know that Jasmine Crockett was my congressperson by 3 blocks.
Right.
He got a big kick out of that, apparently.
I bet he did.
It's like
we did too, Mark.
Give Gary my condolences. But you've got Jasmine Crockett. You've got AOC. You've got if you watch Scott Jennings on CNN and just the audio clips with these liberals out there, the messenger has gotten so incredibly bad for the left, while even you and I have criticized the messaging and marketing of ideas on the right. When you make the comparison, when you look at it comparatively speaking, even when the right, we feel, may not be 100%, they may be 80% of the correct message, and we go, you got to be you got to say this and say this, or we would have said this and that. It still has created the 80-20 issues out there because where they stand on the issues is insane. And I think it's a wonderful, sociological thing to investigate.
Yeah.
About what in the human mind makes it so you keep losing an argument over and over again. using a particular talking point, and you justify insane opinions on insane issues. A man can be a woman because a man says so. Men should be competing against women in sports. And you keep defending it over and over again, and you never get tired of doing it, even after you're getting annihilated in the arena of ideas every single day on it. I find that sociologically just fascinating, how people continue to do it. And the only way I can see that they do it is because they're new to the arena and they want to gain power, and that's the only way that they can gain power, because they don't have it. There is no other argument. You can't come, and the argument that they have is horrible. Because remember, the argument for the whole radical transgender movement is if you discuss it at all, well, then transgenders will commit suicide. And then that's on you if you don't agree with their opinion. That's their argument.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, and they really can't back up the argument, and that's one example. They can't really have a discussion, and they'll shut it down. How do they shut it down? Well, it depends on what you're talking about. In the liberal transgender movement, well, you can't talk about it because someone might die. Well, hold on a second. You just brought up a massive mental health crisis.
Right. That you've ignored.
That you and your side are ignoring completely. Or on other topics, well, that's racist. Why do they go to these extremes? Well, number one, it is how they think, but it's also the tactic itself they believe is going to shut the opposition down.
You and I played the number of, it was all women, so they're all liberal women, on the Sydney Sweeney thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we had played it on the air, and
yeah.
the response we gave is the response that our listeners gave to us back, which was like, they're not even making sense.
Right.
They're not connecting a dot. They have a dot over here, and they say this, and they try to connect it to a dot over here that really doesn't relate. There's no way you can connect that dot. It's like there is a complete lack of critical thinking. It's almost as if it's pure, raw emotion and rage. But how can you be so in a state of emotional rage and not be able to connect the dots because you can't understand your own rage. If I get angry about something, I can tell you precisely, and so can you, and so can our listeners, precisely what their beef is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the problems. Well, why can't we get together? Because we don't know what the hell the left is talking about.
Right.
There is no connecting of the dots anymore.
Right.
It's just emotion and rage based on, and that's why the Sydney Sweeney thing, for you and I look at it and go, there's not even a damn issue there.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there's an issue there for them that they can't even articulate.
Yeah.
Or where they attempt to articulate, it becomes eugenics without any evidence to support it at all, except the delusions that they come up with in their minds.
Right. Well, and, you know, they think, too, that in today's viral world, that their rant, the fit that they're having, the childlike tantrum that they're having, gets them to go viral, that they've won. To them, that's winning the argument. And they don't understand a number of people are watching it because it's a train wreck. That's really how Libs of TikTok really catapulted to
you're right.
Success
that's
and having a huge following. We're not agreeing with you. We're laughing at you.
The Libs of TikTok did not become popular by saying, here's our opinion. They simply said, here's what the left is saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when one of my grandchildren started a fake cry. They'd go, And anytime if I'm around, they do that. I get right in front of them and go right along with them, and they see how ridiculous it is, and it's over. It's just blank face.
I'm trying to think of the audio cut. We either played it earlier this week, like Monday, or last week, and it was the one woman on the Sydney Sweeney thing, and she took it to a completely different topic, and you were all like,
"Yeah,
how did she?" And I forgot what the topic was that she.
Yeah, I forgot what that was.
And you were like looking at each other like,
"Yeah,
how the hell did she get there?"
It's like,
where did?
How in the world did that happen? Look, we wander off topic every once in a while, but she made what we do look, just like nothing. She just handled that like a pro in terms of wandering to nowhere. But when you have nothing, when you have no convictions, of course you're not going to stand on anything. You've got to. They really think they can build out their own argument, insane argument. They think each one of them, because, we talk about this recycling of the same old argument, the same old issues that are very obvious, especially on the 80-20 stuff, to most people, that are self-evident to most people. They think no one has argued the way they're arguing, don't realize that actually all of them are arguing exactly the same, and they're adding nothing to it because there's no basis for it to begin with. You don't have the truth on your side. You don't have reality on your side. When you live in the delusional world of the left, well, you can go off on a tangent and just make it up as you go along. There are some days, y'all, that I actually wish you and I could get away with that.
Yeah.
Just make it up. It would be so much easier than all of the, show prep and paying attention to reality. Just walk in and blah, 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 blah.
But you make the case that we've made before about the left. There's a ton of intellectual laziness there.
It's
you
all
and I.
Intellectual laziness,
if you and I or any of our listeners were trying to make the arguments that they would make, we would know they're not working and we would feel shame.
Right, exactly.
Like, God, we're horrible at this.
Right. One of my running routines is just kind of over now, thanks to their retirement, playing guitar with Aerosmith. That was the basis of that was, hey, they can make it up as they go along. Right. On the left, I'll just make it up as I go along. Nobody cares about the truth or the facts. That's the basis of it. And, of course, the humor lies in the absurdity of it when everybody knows it's untrue. It's the same as when you're hearing the left try to argue.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Leased owner-operators should be aware of 4 common revenue myths, lest you fall into the trap of mistaking revenue for profit. Myth 1, concentrate on increasing revenue because costs will take care of themselves. This is not true, as costs are fundamental to the profit equation and the area where owners exert the most control to improve. Myth 2, more revenue per mile is the answer to all problems. Though carrier pay packages differ in structure, revenue per mile really doesn't change much from company to company. But there can be a big difference in miles, overall gross revenue, reimbursements, and fees. Myth 3, all you have to do to be successful is run a lot of miles. In reality, revenue is only half of the profit equation. Costs are the other half. It's possible to generate a lot of revenue, yet spend $1.10 to make every dollar. Myth 4, you can tell how well you're doing by the size of your settlement check. The settlement check is only a part of the success picture. Miles driven, loads hauled, conditions, mechanical problems, time off, and especially costs all have to be considered. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. By the way, that's the headline that started it all out was you talking about the headline in the Washington Post about that Tulsi Gabbard overrode. Is that what?
Yeah. Let me. I think I still have it up.
What was it?
Gabbard overrode CIA officials' concerns and pushed to release classified Russia report. And I said to myself, well, I know it's not Ratcliffe because they would have put Ratcliffe in the headline. So unless it was Ratcliffe, it means nothing.
Right. And the other thing is the argument, because it could give away sources and
methods. And
shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, they're using that as the excuse.
They use that as the excuse, and they don't have to verify it in any way. They just have to say it.
Exactly.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I just found this audio.
Yeah?
Just in the last minute and a half.
Okay.
From CBS.
All right.
And this has to be about the nuclear reactor on the moon.
Yeah, okay.
And then you had Elon Musk talking about Mars yesterday.
Yeah.
A few years, they believe that they'll be able to get the robotic vehicles up there.
Right.
All right. Get ready for this. Stop what you're doing unless you're driving.
Right.
And Neil deGrasse Tyson is asking the question to the astrophysicist. All right, you ready for this?
Okay.
This is not a physicist question, though. When I heard this, I just went, I just want to go home for the day. I mean, we've been spending a lot of time here in the show so far.
Yeah.
Just talking about the headlines and the same stupid arguments again, and how they can never connect the dots, and it's like you can't argue with the left because they don't make any sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Ready?
Here we go. Let's go.
But if we want to keep growing a population, or if we want to live forever, all right, we're going to need another planet.
So is that the moon? Because
I don't want to live on the moon.
Right? Will it serve as a functional life source eventually for human beings? And B, we know how the age of colonialism worked on this planet. Should we be trying to colonize and saying that there's a keep out zone that not other countries can participate?
All right. Okay. This is why we can't have nice things. Yep. Hey, I don't know what the moon's doing tonight, but if it's up there, don't look at it. Just go about your business.
Colonizing Mars. Yeah. We have stolen the land from the Martians.
Yeah.
And that's another dumb argument.
Hmm.
I've seen that again from the left. They're still talking the stolen land. What isn't?
Humans have been migrating since humans have been humans.
And I remember a long time ago, and we were one of the first to, and I don't know, this could have been 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when the argument, you just started hearing the left talking about stolen land, America, stolen land, and the brutality. It's like, well, the Indian Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Humans can be brutal.
Yeah.
Human beings can be brutal and have been brutal.
Yeah.
Including Native Americans and their history.
Mm-hmm.
And they had conquest. The Indian Wars happened. And there's this thing as if, no, it's only if it's European history, it's the worst. Yeah, but no, they didn't. It's like but the whole colonialism, it just, stop it, for God's sakes.
Well, it's, again, you can't, because at the basis of it is basically all humanity is wrong. Now, the left will tell you, no, only white males. Yeah. It's pretty much all of humanity. Because you need more and more oppressors to keep this whole shtick going. To keep this game on, you need to build out all of these, bigger and bigger bad guys. Look, Trump was adored by the left for decades.
And he held the same opinions back then as he does now.
And the left was asking him to run.
Yeah.
Time and time again, every talk show that he was on, if he talked about issues, inevitably by the end, are you going to run for president one day? If so, which party? They didn't even know which party he would run for. Well, the moment he decided to run as a Republican, he was the devil. And Bill Maher back then. Well, the other guys were devils. They actually were Hitler, or weren't Hitler, but this guy actually is Hitler. And Bill Maher is singing a different tune. I never heard him, maybe I missed it. I never heard Bill Maher come back and say, I was wrong for saying that. But the point is, they have to build out a new big bad guy in whatever form or fashion. They have to have some other oppressor, and it has to be the current oppressor has to be the GOAT, the worst oppressor of all time. And I guess that would be the WOT. And it's not, they really don't. They really don't change their tactic because it's all they got. They got to cry. 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 It's like children who get away with crying all the time as long as there's nothing done about it. If there's no discipline or truth involved, then the kids get to live in their little fantasy world and they just keep crying. And this is, and again, they'll just make themselves go viral. They think they're going viral for the right reason. But it is insanity. And you have some on the left, you hear it, you see it. Well, we can't keep doing this. Actually, they're going to do more of it. And you're not in the mainstream of the left, because the left mainstream is as far radical as it's ever been, getting more radical by the second.
Well, one of the stories that a little bit under the radar, saying we're focusing so much on the New York City insane politics and the situation in Seattle. Seattle's far-left political movement is gaining steam. This is from the postmillennial.com, with progressive and socialist candidates dominating early returns from Tuesday's primary election. Longtime political fixtures are suddenly in peril as insurgent challengers ride a wave of dissatisfaction with the city's establishment leadership. And they just talk about all the different races there, and that the radical left in these liberal cities is gaining hold. I saw the story about Chicago. Brandon Johnson says finances are at the point of no return without a massive tax hike. So you've got it in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You've got it probably coming to New York City. About Cuomo trying to hit him, the fact that that Mamdani has property in Uganda. And, that's, when we talk about insane arguments, because he talked about the fact that, he said silence is violence because of the discrimination and assault and other treatments of LGBTQ in Uganda. And so he just pounded him on that. But, we talked about the insanity of the left. Queers for Palestine.
Yeah.
It's just like, what in the hell?
Yeah.
They'd kill you in a second.
Do you have any idea?
Yeah, none of it makes sense. But when you look at it here, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says the finances are at a point of no return. He told his constituents that the systems that the people rely on are woefully underfunded, and he wants higher taxes. They have a $1.1 billion shortfall. Everyone knows what, my commitment is to the progressive revenue. I can't do it by myself. Chicago facing a disastrous $1.1 billion budget deficit for 2026 and insists that he needs more, quote, progressive revenue. Is that the new term now? Progressive revenue? We need progressive revenue.
I guess it is.
I
guess we're going with that. Write that down.
I don't know what that term is. Let me see.
Progressive revenue.
Progressive revenue. I don't know the difference between revenue and progressive revenue.
Yeah, I don't.
Unless
I don't
progressive revenue means tax the rich.
Yeah. Well, I think it would fit right in with communism. Progressive communism. Progressive democratic communism.
Okay, it comes up on Google.
Yeah.
In essence, progressive revenue, or more accurately, a progressive tax system, refers to the system where the tax rate increases as the taxable income or wealth increases.
Yeah, okay.
So it's exactly
All
what
right.
we thought we were.
Yeah.
It was. Okay. Right.
A progressive tax. Yeah,
Right. Tax the rich because they can't go anywhere. Whatever happened? Remember California was going to have the exit tax? Whatever had that seemed to die, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it died with something called the Constitution.
Remember they were talking about, well, if you leave, you'd still be taxed for another 7 years.
Right.
Remember that statement? It was
Right.
like, what the hell are you talking about?
Where do you get that from? Why go just 7? Why not say 100? We're going to tax your grandchildren and great-grandchildren. We're going to take everything.
We want illegals in our state. We want them in, and we're going to force the rich not to leave.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, my God.
Build a wall to keep you in. Call Snake Plissken. We need to escape California.
And it's a financial wall.
Yeah.
If you leave, this state will tax you to death.
And built with progressive revenue.
Yes. Phil Mickelson probably was going, whew, I got out soon enough.
Man.
God's sakes.
Thank you, Florida.
Man, oh, man, I got hit a long time ago on that one. And
yeah.
Remember when he talked about, this is when he wanted to buy part of the San Diego Padres, I believe.
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's just too bad. And people went nuts. He's rich. How dare he? Well, why does he care about it? And then you and I figured it out and went, well, but over a 10-year period, if you look at what Phil Mickelson was making at that time, and you
and the tax rate at that time,
the tax rate of what is it, 13%, and you put it over a period of 10 years, it was like between $100 and $130 million.
He was paying 52. I think we came to the at one point federal, state taxes combined. He would have been 52.3%. I think.
Yeah. But the 13% itself made it so that's the figure.
Right.
Nothing
what
he can do
change,
about federal.
Yeah. What would change is the 13?
That was between $100 and $130 million.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we don't know about you, but even if I had $1 billion, if I was going to be taxed $100 to $130 billion, and I lived in the state of California, and I said, I can invest that not just to make money for me, but I can invest that, or I could create a charity of a foundation of my own, which would be much more effective.
I think he said that. Yeah.
I'm gone.
Yeah. I think he said there are things I can do with this that benefit other people instead of giving it to the state of California.
Yeah. So, remember how he just got hit so.
Oh yeah.
He got hit so hard for that.
Right.
But just amazing.
Well, when you earn that kind of money, you can do what you want. How about that? We'll make it even.
Well, he could have given it to the Red Eye Radio Charitable Foundation.
I know.
Which helps you and I.
Exactly.
We pocket it, and you do good things with it.
Elon Musk gets $30 billion from the Tesla new deal with Tesla. $30 billion to stay on for several more years. Listen, he's about free speech. We're about free speech. Come on, buddy.
Yeah, throw some cash our way.
We call it a progressive red-eye tax.
Yes. All I want is what's coming to me. All I want is my fair share.
I don't even think it's fair. I just want it.
By the way, last time I said it, I said that, I got like 5 responses from people saying, wow, that's from the Charlie Brown Christmas movie. It's like, oh, yeah.
Do they ever show that? Do they show that anymore?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does ABC still show it?
I don't know, but it's on every year.
And remember, they're singing, faith-based songs in that. And years ago, we were going, wow, how much longer will they keep showing that on broadcast television?
God, that's worse than a Sidney Sweeney
I know.
jeans ad.
I know.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, the Kami Mandami, I'd mentioned it. Cuomo goes after him. Just really an interesting story. This is the one that I like.
Yeah.
This is a headline that just the headlines got to me yesterday. Stephen A. Smith suggests support for federal investigation into WNBA. I thought it was for what they were throwing on the court for treatment of Caitlin Clark. That there should be basically a federal hate crime investigation.
All right.
We'll get to that and a whole bunch more coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now, this is a fascinating story. New Zealand's Air Force carried out a nearly 20-hour medical evacuation to rescue 3 Americans from Antarctica, calling it a high-risk mission conducted in freezing temperatures and total darkness. A U.S. National Science Foundation requested the evacuation after 3 staff members at McMurdo Station were unable to receive adequate medical treatment on site. One of the individuals required urgent care, while the other 2 also needed medical attention and were transported as a precaution. Air Commander Andy Scott, head of New Zealand's air component, said midwinter flights to Antarctica are among the most difficult missions due to shifting weather, extreme cold, and ice landings in total darkness. The crew can only attempt the flight after detailed analysis of the weather and airfield state. The United States Antarctic Program Winter Team must physically create the runway before we can depart by ensuring that the ice is groomed and suitable for landing. Although they determine it is safe, it's still an extremely challenging environment to fly in on night vision goggles due to the extreme weather conditions, which are highly changeable at this time of the year and make accurate forecasting a challenge. One of the things that I will tell you this fascinates me because I just, on YouTube, I've watched so many videos of the people that live there at McMurdo Station and the other places.
Yeah.
I mean, I've probably watched different videos, maybe 50, 60 hours of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating because once you get, to the winter part of it, nobody goes in or out.
Right. you can't.
done. This is so rare. I know we're saying, well, in modern technology and everything, not in that place.
Yeah.
I mean, anything you do is an extreme risk. But yeah, that's one of the things I look at. There's a ton of things that I look at and say, boy, they'd be the coolest thing ever to do, but I'd never want to do it.
Yeah.
And that would be one of them. And they talk to the people that they're not just because during the summertime there's more people, and I'm in the summertime there, not here, in the States,
right? Which is different.
They're in winter right now, but they talk about how lonely they get. There's really not a lot to do.
Cabin fever.
And the population goes way, way down in the wintertime. There's a lot more people there. I forgot. I don't know if there's if there's 700 people there during the summer, it goes down to, I don't know, 150 or something like that during the wintertime. But, to do all the things that they have to do. But and they say it's beautiful. They say that's the one thing. It's so incredibly beautiful. You appreciate that. And the night sky, they say the night sky is mind-boggling because there's no light pollution at all, none.
Right. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by all of that. And you look at it when you look at the structures that they build down there, the new modern structures that they built, you would think you're on Mars or you're on some other planet. Everything that they have.
Yeah, it really comes off as otherworldly. I think there are things that I'm very curious about. I don't know how many books and I've read and documentaries I've watched on Mount Everest.
Oh, yeah.
But I have no desire to climb Mount Everest. Number one, I'm too old. Number two, again, going back to the whole no desire thing, other than hiking, I don't have any experience. But it wasn't one of those things. And you look at climbers that from all over the world, and some have done it multiple times. And I think to myself, because the conditions are, you're talking about 29,035 feet. And a couple of people have done it without oxygen, which I don't get at all. I don't know how they're able to acclimate at all. I really don't get it. But I'm fascinated because it does, to me, it looks like from the videos, from the documentaries, from all the images, it looks like you're on another planet. It just doesn't look like Earth, because I always think to myself this. All right, extraterrestrial beings land, and they land, I don't know, in the Himalayas, or they land on Antarctica, and it's like, oh, there's no humans here. It's uninhabited. Of course, if they're traveling here, they've already probably been around our globe a few times, and they already know where we are. We're all in the cities. We're all on our phones. We don't go to the mountains. We don't go to the dangerous places. But when you look at the images from these places, it looks like if you woke up there, just, someone took you there, you were in a coma the whole time, and you woke up there, you would think you were on another planet.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just fascinated with that because I think part of the fascination is the whole survival thing, your survival instinct. Can I, for those that climb Everest, can I do this and survive it? What does it take to survive it? What's required? Well, you got to have like 3 months carved out to acclimate. Number one, the advanced base camp is higher than any point in North America. So I would love to travel to that region and be able to see the mountains from afar. I love looking at mountains. Climbing Everest, no desire. But I am fascinated with the people who are hell-bent on climbing and or exploring. Explorers, I mean, there's so much technology that we have today, from space exploration, things that you can learn. And there's a ton of stuff that, Elon Musk is working on getting us to Mars. There's a huge chunk of West Texas that's uninhabited.
Well, that white supremacist Mars colonizer.
How dare we colonize Mars? And by the way, there should be no question. The United States will own all of the moon. We already do. So we shouldn't have this stupid discussion. Which countries get which part? We get all of it. And shut up. Quit whining about it. It's over.
Talking about whether it's Everest or Antarctica and the medical evacuation that they had, which is really incredible. If you've ever seen, like I said, any of the video of people that live there, especially those that stayed during the winter. The one thing I would do, I wouldn't want to live there for a year like some of these people do. I wouldn't want to. Right. I don't like isolated places.
Right.
I get uncomfortable when I visit Hawaii.
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to drive 100 miles, and I can't do that.
Right, yeah. It's like me on a cruise ship. Hey, it's a lot of fun, but, man, at some point I want to get off this boat.
I don't like isolation. What I would do, though, I did see one time this documentary, and it's a Russian icebreaker that goes there, but it's a cruise. And it's a very industrial, huge. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Huge. I mean, it's a huge icebreaker, but it's basically, it costs like, $50,000 to go.
Right.
And you're served.
Well, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson, I don't know if it was on the Russian version of that, but he was invited to go along on a cruise. And I think it was last Christmas, and he took his family. But he was invited to do that because he was going to speak on board, and I watched his video on it, and he was talking about the being on that boat, which was also an icebreaker in that region. I guess they all have to be to a certain extent. And there was this excursion one day where you could go and get on the ice, but they caused such a split, a massive fissure, a crevasse in the ice, that it wasn't safe to get off the boat. And get onto the ice. So they couldn't really do that excursion. And I thought to myself, that just being on the boat and watching that happen would have been mind-boggling.
Well, I saw where they do the excursion where you can do it, where they also do the polar bear thing.
Yeah.
Where you can jump in the water, which I have no interest in doing ever.
No.
I jumped into my pool once when my pool was 63 degrees.
Yeah.
And that's it for me. I'm not, any water that's, salt water that is, 32.1 degrees, or if I can go, I don't know, I think salt water can go a little bit below 30.
Yeah, because it's salt water, right. It can,
I have no interest in that at all.
Yeah.
But I'd go the way that the icebreaker did it, because all exotic meals, and you get to do a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And you're nice and warm, and it's just, it's a huge icebreaker.
Look, we swim in the summer. It's toward the end of summer, but point being is it's had all summer to warm in the waters at Lake Tahoe, and it's not. These aren't 95-degree waters.
Oh, that's
56.
That's
56, 55.
Yeah, because it's so deep.
Cold.
What is that? 1,100 feet deep? Something. Like that?
The highest, the deepest part of Lake Tahoe is actually near Incline Village on the north side, in Crystal Bay, I think it's called. Crystal Bay is the deepest part. And to describe how deep it is, you would have to if you put the Empire State Building in the deepest part in Crystal Bay, you would have to swim down 200 feet, over 200 feet, to touch the top of the Empire State Building.
1,644 feet deep.
Yeah.
That lake.
That's Crystal Bay, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it just says Lake Tahoe maximum depth. 1,644 feet. That lake is always cold.
Yeah.
Because, it recirculates.
Yeah.
The water from the bottom goes lake. That happens with Lake Ontario a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you're ever up in the Great Lakes, you look at Lake Ontario, and probably Superior, the deeper lakes do that, where one day it'll be the lake temperature 74 degrees because it's at the surface. Then the next day it's 47 degrees, and you realize the water then it recirculates. And so the cold water comes up to the top, and it's like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I like one thing I like is I grew up in the cold. I don't mind the cold air as much, but I hate cold water. When I jumped into 63-degree water, within 10 seconds, it feels like all my, my legs and arms, all my extremities, you can feel the chill. I mean, you can feel the numbness. And it's like, nah, I don't want to die of hypothermia.
So the very very tip of the Empire State Building is 1,454 feet.
Okay. So, yeah, another 200
so
feet down.
200 feet you'd have to dive and that is Crystal Bay on the north side of the lake, the northeast side of Lake Tahoe. You'd have to, and close to where a lot of the celebrities live, near Incline Village and that.
Is that where the Godfather house is? Godfather 2 house? I'm looking at it right now. They're showing the area where it's deep, and it looks like the shoreline looks like where the Godfather 2 house was.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. But we get in the water up there. For me, locals just go and dive in.
Oh no.
For me, I kind of ease my way in off the shore. I've never I've never taken a dive off of the boat and just jumped in that way.
No.
50, 55 to 60 degree water.
That's too cold for me. I'd freeze up.
Yeah. I'll tell you, it does wonders. Just, right off the beach on the shore, it does wonders for inflammation hanging out in that water. I probably couldn't stay. I think the longest I've done that for an hour and a half, maybe, swimming in Lake Tahoe.
Oh, I can't swim in 63-degree water for more than a minute or two.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
we
swim. But
by the way, Crater Lake 1,000 in Oregon. Crater Lake 1,949 feet.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, too cold. That's too cold.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, some audio and comments from Devin Nunes, who remember with all the Russian hoax, and remember when Adam Schiff was out there and promoting the fact that he said the intelligence showed that the evidence was there that Trump colluded with the Russians,
right?
And he said it was there, and Devin Nunes came out and said he's lying.
Well,
there is no evidence that shows, and Devin Nunes ended up being absolutely 100% correct.
Right.
And Adam Schiff lied. Wow.
And that was an official report from the Democrats in that committee. And Devin Nunes said, no, we've got a report that counters that. It shows you, again, they have to make it up as they go along. Adam Schiff, of course, was lying.
Yep. We'll get to that coming up following the bottom of the hour. And I just realized, the investigation going into the whole mortgage thing with him now.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, that's not going to take long to do. Either it's there or it's not.
It's very simple. You look at the evidence, which will be very clear. That shouldn't take very long at all.
But before we get there, Stephen A. Smith responded to a recent opinion piece by the Wall Street Journal that called for a government investigation into the WNBA for the controversial handling of physical plays against superstar Caitlin Clark. The Wall Street Journal piece titled "The WNBA and Caitlin Clark's Civil Rights drew mixed reactions this week after it argued that Clark has been the subject of a hostile workplace due to how the referees have called physical plays against her dating back to her rookie season in 2024. The piece called for a federal probe into potential civil rights violations. Smith suggested he supports a potential investigation. I'm not here saying that the case will be won by the government if it gets to the points. I'm saying they have a case. They have an argument, Smith said of the idea during the episode of his show on Tuesday. Smith also suggested President Donald Trump could use such an investigation to solidify support among his followers. Do we doubt that at his discretion, at his disposal, if he finds this to be an issue that is politically expedient to him, that Trump won't want to use this to feed his base? If Clark is seen as being physically getting abused on the basketball court in a way that is such a clear and flagrant discrepancy compared to what happens to others, that the man is not going to say something about it, I don't think Caitlin Clark could become an issue of national, potentially international. You don't think that Caitlin Clark could become an issue of national, potentially international, and definitely national proportions? So he cited the recent agreements by Columbia University and Harvard University with the Trump administration to settle alleged civil rights violations against Jewish students and employees as a comparison for a potential probe in the WNBA's treatment of Clark. I don't think Caitlin Clark wants it, and I wouldn't suggest it.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting, though.
Yeah. What happened at Columbia, different than that particular
Yep.
case.
Yep.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. We wanted to play this audio cut because we haven't heard from Devin Nunes in a while, and when he was the head of the House Republican Intelligence Committee, he disagreed with Adam Schiff on a consistent basis. Adam Schiff was constantly lying to the American public and telling them that the intelligence said that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. That is such a radical position and such a big lie, the kind of lie that Democrats were looking at in order to make him a senator in California. That the bigger the lie, then the more Democrats in California wanted him to represent them on a statewide level. But there's no doubt he lied. And so the reason, remember, he was removed from his position on the Intelligence Committee was because of all of that. He lied to the American public. There is no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's a fake report he released.
Yeah. It was, And so when he released it, Devin Nunes released his report and said, he's a liar. There is no evidence. There's no intelligence that shows that Trump colluded with the Russians. It doesn't exist. Devin Nunes told the truth. Adam Schiff lied. No surprise. Now the next question is, did he lie on mortgage applications? We shall see. But here's Devin Nunes on with John Solomon, Just the News, talking about that the media, he says the media are co-conspirators. They may not be prosecuted for it, but they were co-conspirators and they were part of the illegal leaks to get to that point. Interesting. If a leak, here's a question I would have, and part of it's serious, part of it's joking, part of it's serious. If a leak is all bogus information, can it be an illegal leak?
That's a great question.
So Here we go. Here's Devin Nunes on Just the News.
Remember, you have to start out with is there is no media. The legacy media in this country is solely owned by the Democratic Party and the left, and they're moving farther and farther to the left. I think in many cases, some economics has driven some of this, where a lot of these news channels are no longer profitable. It's very tough to make it in the news business. And so you had groups like Fusion GPS that got stood up, and you had these kind of alternative fake news developers and seeders. They go out, they develop fake stuff, they seed it, they water it, they grow it, and then they pay kind of the media that's left out there. They're like the minions, and they go out and harvest it, and they just regurgitate it over and over and over again. So what you're seeing is a combination of a lot of facts, but basically it's the collapse of the whole media complex. And that's why, so we're bifurcated in this country with what I would say real news and people trying to get to the real news, i.e., you know what you do, John, at Just the News every day. And then you have this cabal of jackals and people that are being paid under the table, people that are being bought free dinners in order to, promote a story. So, John, they're really co-conspirators in this. Now, when I say that, does it mean that they are going to be busted? You know, I doubt it, but they were the recipient of illegal leaks of classified information. Point one, General Flynn. That was a leak. I originally, came out and said, what the hell is going on here back in early 2017. This is right before all the ICA Russia crap stuff happened. So these are massive leaks. What the hell's going on? Like, why isn't every FBI agent around in Washington, D.C., trying to track down how these leaks of an incoming administration are happening? So they were involved in these illegal leaks of classified information. And in fact, they just continued today. I mean, even recently, just in the Trump administration, you had illegal leaks from the intelligence agencies that were designed to harm President Trump. Mm-hmm. So therein lies where we sit today. Thankfully, there is a grand jury investigation that has begun. And hopefully, and I know that there was a strike force that was stood up by the Department of Justice. And hopefully justice will be served to these criminals. This has been criminal activity that has been ongoing. If you want to go back all the way to Benghazi, right? I can even take it as far back as that. But for sure against President Trump, it started in late 2015, for sure early 2016. That was what our investigation uncovered, was that it wasn't just the Steele dossier. You may remember, right, John and Amanda, through Lee Smith's reporting. He actually found what we nicknamed, I don't know if there's really a name for them, but they were proto dossiers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And interesting enough, they weren't tying Trump to Putin, but they were tying Trump to dirty oligarchs around the world. Yep. All fake, all nonsense. And once that kind of failed and stumbled, then they turned to weaponizing the FBI and the CIA, as we know, in around March or April of 2016. And it culminates with the raid at Mar-a-Lago. So they were targeting President Trump and have been for a very, very long time.
Interesting, because he goes from exactly where we said the last couple of days, from, covering the story for such a long time. Mm-hmm. It really goes from March of 2016 or even to 2015. But what we used was not the oligarch stories, but the fact that Rand Paul believed that he was being monitored as early as 2015. Right. And so the timeline seems to be that. And then he goes right up to Mar-a-Lago, which you wonder, is that what they're looking at? Is this investigation about setting up, as Ratcliffe said, the whole racketeering thing? Yep. That this is basically a RICO case, that you had a group of people that banded together to try to set up this president and then do it over and over again, where if it's a RICO case, you don't necessarily need to have a conspiracy of communication on a consistent basis. It's the fact of everybody knows what their job is. Once it gets started and once it starts moving, that's the entire purpose of it. Now, when did it begin? It's interesting, because one of the things that came out about Hillary Clinton is the fact that the intelligence agencies told Obama and Brennan told Obama, told Comey, Biden and Comey told them all Hillary's going to set up Trump.
Yeah.
Now, what specifics they knew, there were some generalities we read the other day, but did they know exactly how she was going to do it? Did they know that she was going? Was there knowledge? Did they intercept messages between her and Perkins Coie, and then Perkins Coie to Fusion GPS as to what the goal was, that they were going to create a dossier of fake allegations? My point is, what actually happened? Was that planned in advance, or did that just happen as it went along? But the fact is, once you gave the money to the law firm, there was a reason for that, and you know that it wasn't for regular campaign expenses or legal fees. You
Right.
knew what it was for.
Right.
So you knew it was to get information. Who was the one that decided? Because there's nothing illegal with opposition research. You can do opposition research, but is the trigger? Would be my question that I don't think I brought up in this way. My question would be, when they talk about the trigger, and not the triggering of a woke statement, but the ignition, the trigger of this entire thing, was it that they have in the email that they knew that she was going to transfer this money to get to operatives who would just make stuff up? Because if they knew she was trying to set him up, they knew there was nothing there that she could get. So did that information show that she was going to use this money for somebody and have layers down so it couldn't get back to her? She had plausible deniability because there were, it went to Perkins Coie, then Fusion GPS, and Christopher Steele, then Iggy Danchenko. Was it to set her up to get plausible deniability, but the entire plan was to use that money and have so many levels that you could create a fake dossier? Because did they know? They knew that she was going to try to set him up with false information. Were the specifics there? Because if they were there, that at that point starts that entire conspiracy and her illegally using campaign money to do that. And then later on, the lie from Kleinsmith to the FBI about Carter Page. Are those the two things that set up the criminal wrongdoing that begin the conspiracy? I don't know.
Or could there even be more? But when we talk about communications. Because I assume that there are a number of communications between different parties here. The question would be, do they have them? What do they have in communications, proof that, all right, this was said to this person, this message was conveyed to this person on this date? Because I have to believe it didn't just happen and then all of it get erased. You look at something like Susan Rice writing that now infamous email to herself on the way out the door, hoping to basically make it a matter of record. Obama insisted, buy the book, buy the book, buy the book. Why do you have to say that? That's weird that you would have to do that literally on her way out the door, just hours before Trump was inaugurated in January of 2017. Why would you have to say, buy the book, buy the book? And if it were true and Obama was saying that during that now infamous meeting in January, that he was repeating it, buy the book, buy the book. Well, everything is buy the book. You don't have to say that. That's implied. You want to do everything on the up and up. Well, so if all of these, again, in the arena, you have to put yourself in the mindset. They thought they were winning this. A grand conspiracy like this requires multiple people believing not only that they're winning, but they're doing the right thing. We talked about journalists earlier. You know, we believe we're doing the right thing. We forget about being biased. We believe we're doing the right thing. Well, in something like this, by going after Trump, we're doing the right thing. It's what people want. We're doing the work of the people here. And if you've got that mindset and then the power to go along with it, then there might be a number of communications that are available that could be evidence that basically constitutes the conspiracy. Maybe I'm wrong, but my thought is if you haven't found it yet, you're not looking hard enough. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, you go back to Comey, the whole no reasonable prosecutor. Well, no, we should look, she broke the law. Here's where she broke the law on the email thing. But no reasonable prosecutor. Well, you're not a prosecutor, dude. At the time, he was FBI director. You know, when you think you're winning it, you've got that control. Mm-hmm. You're drunk with power. You're not afraid to communicate. In fact, you're probably communicating on a regular basis. And I'm guessing, and it is just a guess, but my hunch tells me there's a number of communications between different parties here that would help to constitute eventually, as evidence, a conspiracy.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, when we talk about the Department of Justice and the grand jury, what federal crimes might they be looking at besides perjury? For the last couple of days, been doing some research and seen some of the legal minds talk about this, and they may have a case where, and we'll get into the specifics of it, when they talk about Title 18, Section 241 and Section 242, which are conspiracy against rights and the deprivation of rights under color of law. And you're saying, what does that mean? Well, we'll explain it to you coming up following the top of the hour. But when you go through and actually look at the law from the government, how it's written, you go, oh.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know that law existed in that former manner.
Right.
Coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Hello. So one of the questions that we have asked, besides possible perjury for the entire Russia collusion hoax, and that's brought up, that possible perjury, for example, for Brennan, what other laws may they be looking at, especially when they're looking at conspiracy? Well, one of the things that I've seen coming up over the last couple of days, and so we decided to do some research on it, was the part of the law, which is Title 18, Section 241 and 242, called Conspiracy Against Rights and the Deprivation of Rights under the Color of Law. Now, they talk about the conspiracy. They talk about, Ratcliffe talked about racketeering, which means the RICO laws could be put into it, which means in RICO, you don't necessarily need a conspiracy, but you just need an organization which has been set up, or a group of people to do wrong against someone else. But let's stick to this point here, the conspiracy against rights and deprivation of rights under the color of law. Just a couple of sentences on each one. And when you read it, you say, oh, okay, I can see this being used. The conspiracy against rights, this law makes it unlawful for two or more persons to conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person of any state, territory, or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or the laws of the United States. That's part one. We'll get to that in a moment. Part two, would be Title 18, Section 42, deprivation of rights under the color of law. This statute makes it a crime for any person acting under the color of law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom to willfully deprive or cause to be deprived from any person those rights, privileges, or immunity secured or protected by the Constitution and the laws of the United States. Well, you can look at it, and when it says, both of them make the same point, one is a conspiracy law, the other one could be applied just to an individual, but the conspiracy against rights, two or more persons to conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person of any state, territory, or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him or her by the Constitution and the laws of the United States. To run for president would be one of them. You have the right to run for president of the United States.
Yeah.
And when you put it right there, because it's intimidate, threaten, oppress, in all of those based on two or more people putting out lies against you, and then the deprivation of rights under the color of law would make it a crime for any person acting under the color of law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom to willfully deprive or cause to be deprived from any person those rights, privileges, and immunities secured or protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. I wonder if they want to use that for the beginning of how it all happened, and also the lawfare. If you're making up stuff, and the thing is, because of the conspiracy or the RICO, are they trying to tie conspiracy and RICO together and have a conspiracy and also RICO? And the conspiracy also leads to the culture of the RICO that continued.
Well, because once the conspiracy is in motion, then you basically put together the elements very quickly to constitute RICO.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are establishing that organization. And, we asked the question about what was done. In fact, earlier this week, we were talking about the Obama administration. The Obama administration in October of 2016 going to the FISA court saying, look, we know that you rebuked us for violating citizens' rights in the past and told us to quit doing it. And that was years ago. We didn't quit doing it, but we'll quit doing it now. Of course, in October of 2016, Barack Obama was done. His second term was almost up. But our question was, well, what did the FISA court mean, or to what end did those actions by the Obama administration work? What was their goal? What were they intending to do? We bring in Rand Paul. he believes he was targeted going back to 2015. The point being, if you have this, because it is organized at that point as a part of the Obama administration, but then the Hillary campaign, the DNC. Now, the Hillary campaign and the DNC, they're not necessarily in positions of power at that point. But people inside the Obama administration are.
Well, when you look at the definition includes the addition to law enforcement officials, individuals such as mayors, councilpersons, judges, nursing home proprietors, security guards, persons who are bound by laws, statutes, ordinances, and customs. That's for the deprivation of rights under the color of law. But let's go to one last section here. Title 18, Section 245, Federally Protected Activities. This statute prohibits willful injury, intimidation, or interference, or an attempt to do so by force or threat of force of any person or class of persons because of their activity as A, a voter, a person qualified to vote, B, a participant in any benefit, service, privilege, program, facility, or activity provided or administered by the United States, C, an applicant for federal employment or an employee by the federal government. Because that's the thing we were wondering. We said, okay, what is the law that is broken? And I've seen this more, it isn't out there where everybody's talking about it, but I have seen the conspiracy against rights. It would be Title 18, Section 241, Title 18, Section 242, and Title 18, Section 245. And it's conspiracy against rights, deprivation of rights under color of law, and federally protected activities. You have a right to run for president of the United States. And if someone attempts to interfere on that through intimidation, and you look at all the intimidation that that happened because of it, or once you become elected, that is a federally protected activity because it's a participant in any benefit, service, privilege, program, facility, or activity provided or administered by the United States, which would include the President of the United States. And you're attempting to destroy their presidency through a conspiracy. And what they're saying is that fits.
Well, and it's also not just the president, but remember Michael Flynn.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the goal when they went after Michael Flynn?
Yep.
To break him, knowing you'll spend every bit of your life savings on lawyers.
By the way, it's interesting because Comey said it. Where am I getting all my information from? www.fbi.gov.
Yeah.
It's where I'm reading this all from.
That's because you have a higher loyalty.
To myself.
And speaking of which, Comey was the one that pointed out the Michael Flynn thing. These guys were newbies. We knew we could send a couple of our top agents, including Peter Strzok, to the White House without even consulting White House, the White House counsel, and we knew they wouldn't think to insist White House counsel be involved there.
The goal was to intimidate and threaten.
Yeah.
Right there, Trump, in the free exercise of or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him or her by the Constitution and the laws of the United States.
So if you look at the entire collection of events that happened,
Yes.
which, by the way, 2 impeachments.
Yeah. And
They went all the way to impeachment. Not removal, of course, but they went all the way through the impeachment process twice. And then lawfare. And then because he was still a threat, of course, they kept it going with the lawfare that happened during the Biden years.
And so that's conspiracy against rights, as we said, to threaten or intimidate any person, and that would be to threaten or intimidate Donald Trump in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States. Number 2 would be deprivation of rights under the color of law, which would be the statute makes it a crime for any person acting under the color of law, statute, ordinance, or regulation or custom to willfully deprive or cause to be deprived Donald Trump from those rights. I had a Trump instead of person. Those rights, privileges, and immunities secured or protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. He did nothing wrong.
Right.
And not only were there the 2 or more persons, because that would be the conspiracy, and then the other one is going after the individual for doing the same thing that you were doing in the conspiracy.
Well, and then you put it on the grand scale. These are 2 or more individuals, and some of whom were the head of the CIA, the FBI,
Yes. Yeah.
and, of course, President of the United States.
And that's why they say the definition here includes, in addition to law enforcement officials, individuals such as mayors, councilpersons, judges, nursing home proprietors, security guards, etc., persons who are bound by laws, statutes, ordinances, or customs.
Right.
And if you're a lawyer out there, email us if there's a weakness to how we're reading this law and how it would apply to the president.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out what the weakness. I don't want to just say they've got him slam dunk. I look at this and it seems to make a heck of a lot of sense to me that if I'm going to try to convince, because this is what you and I talked about more in the generality a couple of weeks ago when we spent 90 minutes laying it out without knowing the specific crimes that they may be looking at. Now I've seen that these are some of the crimes that they're looking at, and we knew going in, if they got a grand jury, we knew they had a template of what they were going to try to convince the grand jury of. Mm-hmm. Well, now that you have this specific law here from where we were 2 weeks ago in a generic way of looking at possibilities, and the goal was, can you get an indictment? I don't know whether you can get a conviction, but you start with the indictment. You believe you can get an indictment from a grand jury. You look at this, and if everything that we have covered here is how we believe the law is applied, I believe you can. Now, there may be a weakness to our argument.
Right.
I don't know what it is based on reading the actual text of the law.
Especially when you include the entire list of events and everything they threw at Trump.
Well, when you include the law, and specifically we did the same thing for the this is sort of what we did for Hillary with the Espionage Act. Here's what she did. Here's what the law says. We're doing the same thing here. Here's what they did. Here's what the law says.
Right.
So I'm looking for a weakness in my argument. That's once you and I do this all the time. Once we look and go, this seems to make sense, then we look for the weakness in our argument.
Mm-hmm. And why?
And where
the question is, why would this not apply?
Yeah, where would the flaw be in our legal reasoning here of why this wouldn't apply to everybody involved in the Russia collusion hoax?
Right.
What would nix it and say, well, sorry, it doesn't apply because of this? I haven't seen it. And I think that's something that, should be done on a national scale, that this is, I forgot who first, it was a couple of days ago, I saw somebody bring this up, and I went, what is that? Okay, I'll check that out. But then I saw, I think it was, the guy from the Federalist brought it up. I went, okay, let me go through the text of the law. He didn't go through the text. And so I said, let me go through the text. I went through the text, and I went, oh, my God, this seems to fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
Is it Sean whatever from the Federalist?
Yeah, Sean Davis.
Sean Davis is one. Yeah, I saw. But where I saw his audio cut, he didn't go in the specifics as we did. So we went to the law and looked at the actual law from FBI.gov.
Right.
And when you go to FBI.gov, hey, by the way, James Comey, when you go to FBI.gov, it seems you might have done something wrong here.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
Well, I just wonder, maybe could this be a case where the bureaucrats don't even know what their own law is?
Oh, I think that's the case.
Their interpretation of their own law.
Right, exactly. Well, again, when you think you're winning and you're drunk with power, the law doesn't apply to you.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log, general form and manner, and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The other thing I've seen is obstruction of justice.
Yeah.
And I don't know where precisely that would apply, but I did find I said, okay, do I have a weakness in my argument? And I thought I found a weakness in my argument, and now I don't believe I did, but we'll have that coming up following the bottom of the hour because it's really interesting. In the section of laws that a lot of the experts believe the grand jury will be looking into, which is conspiracy against rights, deprivation of rights under the code of law, and federally protected activities. And we just went through the text and read it, and I said, there any weakness there? And I thought, I might have found one here because I went, okay, but intimidate. Well, if you lie in an ad about someone, that you are for this position or whatever, is that doesn't apply under this law. So why would the Russia collusion hoax apply under this law? And I think I have the answer.
All right.
Coming up.
All right.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Well, legal experts, a few legal experts, and speculating. Eric and I talking about speculating what they may be going to the grand jury with. What is the actual crime? One of them that's come out is Section 18, 241, 242, 243, which is conspiracy against rights, deprivation of rights under color of law, and federally protected activities. And just very quickly to go over in case you just tuned in again, because we've all been wondering, well, what is the specific law? And we've heard treason. I've heard sedition. I'm like, no, they don't fit. They don't fit. They don't fit. They don't fit. And when you actually read the text of the law, but you read these, and you're like, whoa. And just to go over very quickly, it's just a couple of sentences. Section 241, this statute makes it unlawful for 2 or more persons to conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person of a state, territory, or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him or her by the Constitution or the laws of the United States. And we said, that's running for president.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be the conspiracy portion of it. Deprivation of rights under color is an individual. This statute makes it a crime for any person acting under the color of law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom to willfully deprive or cause to be deprived from any person those rights, privileges, and immunities secured or protected by the Constitution and laws of the United States. Acts under color of law include acts not only done by federal, state, or local officials within the bounds or limits of their lawful authority, but also acts done without and beyond the bounds of their lawful authority. The definition includes, in addition to law enforcement officials, individuals such as mayors, councilpersons, judges, nursing home proprietors, security guards, or persons who are bound by laws, statutes, ordinances, or customs. Sounds like an FBI director there, does it not?
Yeah.
And then the next one would be the federally protected activities. This statute prohibits willful injury, intimidation, or interference, or attempt to do so by force or threat of force of any person or class of persons because of their activity as A, a voter or person qualified to vote, B, a participant in any benefit, service, privilege, program, facility, or activity provided or administered by the United States, and C, an applicant for federal employment or an employee by the federal government. Now, the one thing I thought of, because we were looking for a weakness in our argument, and I said, okay, well, intimidation, well, I can lie about you as a political candidate.
Well, opposition research, would that be considered to be, the typical opposition research?
No, before we get to opposition research, though, my point is I can lie about you and it doesn't fit this law. Okay?
Right.
I can just lie and say, you voted for this bill and you didn't vote for this bill. Or I can say you committed sexual assault even if you didn't commit sexual assault, and it doesn't apply under these laws. So why does the scenario we brought up apply to these laws? And the reason that I would look at is because of what you just said, because the money was supposed to go for legal fees, where in essence it was going for opposition research, and she was fined civilly for that, Hillary Clinton. So that sets up the beginning of the conspiracy of lying to the Federal Elections Commission in order to use that money for nefarious purposes, to not just lie, but create and build up evidence, fake evidence of that lie,
right,
present it to the FBI. An FBI agent lies, to the FISA court in order to get that FISA warrant about the intentions of the target of the warrant, that would have been Carter Page, implying he was an asset of of Russia when actually he was an asset of the United States, which is 180 degrees different. So you've set up that criminal conspiracy at that moment, which changes it from just telling a normal lie.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Right.
I mean, that's how I would explain it. So that's what would make it different than just telling a lie. You're setting up that conspiracy to do so. And then I thought about, because then I saw, okay, obstruction of justice. Well, if you set this up and you're trying to build a conspiracy, and this goes by what Ratcliffe, what Devin Nunes said, that the conspiracy began with the beginning of the Russia collusion hoax, whether it was March of 2016 officially or whether it was July of 2016 when the intelligence agencies told both Obama, Biden, and the FBI director that Hillary was trying to set him up. And then if it ends at Mar-a-Lago, well, then you get into lawfare, which then gets into obstruction of justice. Because if that's all part of the RICO or the RICO or racketeering portion of it, and the only reason I bring this up is because Ratcliffe mentioned racketeering. And so you look at that, you take the conspiracy, racketeering, and if it is inclusive of all those things, well, if, for example, how do you tie it into the Obama administration, to the local lawfare stuff that happened? You tie it in. Remember the attorney that went from the Department of Justice and became part of, was it Bragg? Yeah, I think it was Bragg's. Was it Bragg's defense or was it Letitia James? It was one of them where somebody from the Department of Justice came, and that's where they said, okay, there's communication with the White House on this because the person from the Department of Justice came to work to prosecute Trump. And that's where you tie in and take the conspiracy or the racketeering, from the beginning to the lawfare and then to the White House. Or I won't say the White House, I'll say the executive branch, which also would include the FBI and Department of Justice on that end, and maybe the White House.
Well, even during the transition period in 2016, after the election, how many Democrats on Capitol Hill said, we're going to do everything to get him out of office? Now, that's political rhetoric on its face.
Except if
it's already known by those individuals what Hillary had put into motion and what it was likely they were going to continue to do, which they did.
You're right, because if they specifically knew she was going to take money and do it, and they knew that portion of it, she was going to take money and funnel it to get this opposition research, and laws were broken in doing it,
then it's quite possible those lawmakers post-election, during the transition period, they were saying, we're going to do everything we can to bring him down and get him out of office. You got Chuck Schumer on a Sunday news show saying, they have, 6 ways to Sunday the intel community to come after you?
That's great. No, it's a great point.
You've got all of these major players inside the Beltway in the Democratic Party, and you're telling me that none of those individuals by that time knew?
And we know that Comey told Trump about the dossier, but didn't tell him they thought it was all bogus.
Right.
And so you're setting up the conspiracy, even though you might not have yourself broken the law, for example, the Federal Elections Commission violation that she was fined for, or you weren't the member of the FBI like Kevin Kleinsmith that lied to get it, you helped set up that entire conspiracy by telling Trump only some information in order to get that story then and leak it to the press that continues the entire conspiracy, racketeering, RICO, whatever, however they're going at it. Now, I know some people say, well, how do you know it's RICO? I'm just telling you what the Republicans have said, what Ratcliffe said. When you say racketeering and then you hear RICO and then you hear, but it's also a conspiracy, we're just going by everything that they have said. We have no inside information. Everything we know is what is publicly available.
Right.
And so we're just questioning, what are they going with? We're not just going off the handle. We're going by what happened.
We're looking at the pieces of the puzzle and trying to determine what fits and what might apply.
And what law, just like we did from the very, very beginning of Russia collusion.
Right.
Good God, on January 2nd, 2017.
Yeah.
Right.
My gosh. That's crazy.
Isn't it?
Here in a few months, that'll be 9 years.
Oh,
wow. Well, okay. On the Kevin Kleinsmith front, what communications might there be that there was a directive? He was an FBI lawyer at the time. Was there any directive? Was there any plan? Did anyone know that he was going to lie on that FISA warrant application?
Or even if they didn't know he was going to lie, did they know he lied and didn't say anything?
Right.
Comey.
Right.
Did Comey know that he lied?
You only have to review what he originally put down there.
Right. Who reviewed the FISA warrant and allowed it to go through besides Kleinsmith?
Right.
It had to be approved by Comey.
There had to have been a number of people who saw it.
Who saw it and said, we know that's a lie. We know
Right.
Carter Page.
Exactly.
And so at that point.
Including who? Over at the CIA, Brennan.
Brennan. Yeah, Brennan.
Because Brennan was CIA director at the time.
Comey, definitely.
They knew
it's a FISA warrant.
Carter Page was an asset.
It's a FISA warrant against the opposition campaign.
Exactly.
That you did not fill him in on all the information. You filled him in on part of it and then leaked it.
They knew Carter Page was an asset.
Yeah. An American asset.
Right.
Right. Not a Russian asset.
Working for our interests, not Russian interests.
So to complete that FISA warrant, you had to have people higher up, like Comey, look at it.
And then give it the okie dokie.
And then that makes it, and then you
run
take
with it.
And then you take him,
exactly.
Again, just telling Trump part of the information and not the full truth.
Right.
In order to leak it, that's a continuation of that racketeering, of the conspiracy, whatever you wish to call it.
Well, you look at that, and Peter Strzok, and, the text to his girlfriend, our insurance policy. All of these things, all of these communications, because you can't look at any of these major players here in these key moments and say this was not a conspiracy, that they were all just happened to be, by coincidence, acting on their own.
Well, you can't, because we know Brennan told them.
Right.
They knew what the truth was.
Well, the January meeting, and what we now know back in July, they knew they had a heads up.
Right. They knew what the truth was.
Yes.
They knew Hillary was going to do that. They knew Hillary was going to do that to get out of the charges. And by the way, you could make part of the conspiracy letting Hillary off.
Yes.
To prove part of the conspiracy.
Right.
Letting her off. And,
because if she goes to jail for the email thing, the whole thing falls apart, by the way. If she had gone, had they had a reasonable prosecutor pursued the email thing, the email server offense, then the whole thing goes under. And why would that be? Unless she did a plea deal, there's going to be discovery and information there and, everything else. And not that the American people would learn everything, but you could learn more. But even beyond that, even if we didn't learn anything else of what might have been on her server, if she goes to jail, the grand conspiracy, the key player in the grand conspiracy is gone. It just crumbles.
Right.
And
I see what I mean? Right, because if that crumbles, then if they still attempt to go after Trump at that point,
right? Say she went to prison for that.
Yeah, that's
whatever.
That's much more in the open, because that would also be sitting there.
Right.
That they would know that they knew.
They knew. We know
they knew with the Mueller report.
Yes.
They knew they were going after an innocent man.
Right. Wow.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. I'm mumbling over my own name. I swear, no vodka this morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Why? Because our show ends in an hour, and after our show ends, our show becomes our podcast. Mm-hmm. So if you've missed part of the show that you want to catch, especially our explanation about what possible law breaking there may be in the whole Russia collusion hoax and what the grand jury may be looking into, well, it'd be perfect time to go back and listen a little bit from now to our third hour, right?
Yep.
Fourth hour.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.